Why do sex offenders need to be put on a registry, whereas convicted murderers do not? Not all sex offenses will see you getting a life sentence. Murder usually is 20 years to life. A lot of murder isn't done for pleasure. Sex offenses are so you're more likely to be a risk to the public. Murder usually has specific motivations. They are not very likely to just go kill random people again, and the few that are go to prison for life. Maybe sex offenders have an urge to keep doing it while murderers don't. Serial killers. S4 stands for Sexual and Violent Offender Registry. Murders are often T1, meaning they are less likely to re-offend. This means that they can petition to be removed from the registry after a certain amount of time with clear conduct. It's more obvious when someone has been murdered. The complexities of crime and punishment are evident in the way society tries to both protect itself and administer justice. While murder definitively ends a life, prompting a strong, often black and white legal response, sex crimes open a Pandora's box of moral and psychological evaluations. The risk of recidivism is tied to underlying behavioral issues, which casts a long shadow over offenders, making rehabilitation a thorny path. Unlike a one-off violent act that can surge out of passion or extreme circumstances, sexual offenses are seen as a more calculated breach of social trust, meriting ongoing vigilance. However, the fluidity of what constitutes a sex offense can sweep up the unwitting into a lifelong struggle against a stigma that outlives the sentence. Balancing society's safety against fair punishment is a delicate equilibrium we are yet to master. The debate is not only about the recidivism rates, but a larger question of how we define and respond to different crimes within our justice system. Very rarely does a person who commits murder kill someone again. Most murders are personal for revenge, money, anger, covering something up. There are of course people who kill random victims, but they are much more likely to not get out once caught. In some municipalities, violent offenders do have to register. Some also require letting the county sheriff know if you're gonna be moving there. More people are wanting to be aware of who their neighbors are, so even though it started with sex offenses, it is expanding. Murderers are a lot more likely to still be in jail. There are multiple reasons for this. Murder often has mitigating circumstances, whether legally effective or not. It's not usual for a guy to just start killing rando strangers. When they do, they are serial killers and don't get out. Most murder is personal. So if you go to bars insulting people, sleep with other people's GFS, scam people on marketplace, etc., you already know that you're in danger. The government doesn't have to warn you about it. You most likely aren't in danger living next TP the guy. People, especially kids, get sad just for existing. It's about the offender wanted to, and not a response to anything the victims did. So just the offender's presence is a threat. Child molesters and serious sexual criminals are very often mentally ill and suffer from a compulsion to hurt others. Not all, but many cannot escape their compulsion. And even after serving their time, they will be a danger to whatever community they move to. I probably don't have to worry about Joe Bob who accidentally killed someone in a bar fight, grabbing my kid and beating them to death for fun. At least not any more than a random stranger doing it. The same can't be said for mentally ill pedophiles who are compelled to molest children. With that said, I would absolutely support a mandatory registry for people convicted of domestic abuse, with mandatory disclosure to any potential partners. If a murderer's back at it, you know pretty quickly. With a sex offender, you may not know for years. You need to know he's there. I'd rather be out of prison and on a registry rather than in prison for life. The difference in sentencing and the public's perception often hinges on the potential for harm and the nature of the crime itself. Murder, most foul, by its very definition, snuffs out a life, and the finality of it demands justice that is often more clear-cut. Sex offenses, particularly those involving children or violence, suggest a pattern of behavior that deeply concerns society about future risks. But we must tread carefully. The broad brush that paints someone as a sex offender can, with the stroke of midnight on an 18th birthday or an ill-advised urination in public, irreparably alter a life. The law's blunt instrument approach to sex offenses versus the more nuanced view of murder may not always reflect the individual circumstances or the potential for rehabilitation. Murders are generally highly publicized. Most sex crimes are not. Murder generally gets very long sentences, often lifelong sentences or close. Many sex crimes do not. Released back into the world after anything from less than a year to 20 years. Because the registry is meant to shame them. Lots of studies out proving the registries are ineffective at improving public safety, but nobody is really clamoring to get rid of them. It looks bad politically. Lots of murders actually have to do a lot of time, while sex offenders don't get nearly as much time. If you're a murderer, you either get death penalty, or you just simply get in prison for your whole life unless you manage to get out. However, sex offenders are much more likely to re-offend, their inclination to do such stuff and like that. Murders are put on registries. If you have a background check done for work or a lease, it will show up. That's a good point. Hello, I am required to tell you that I killed someone and I might be tempted to do a murder on you. So just thought you should know. Oh no. But if you're a sex offended, that means offended by sex, you don't have to tell anyone, but you will.